Hello, my name is Olivia Mason, and this is my final video project for the Early American Literature class. So behind me, I have my computer, which is where I have my notes and stuff on there. So to begin, I'll be talking about the first period, which is the Native American and Indigenous traditions. So the main takeaways that I had from this specific era were the themes of time and nature. For example, in the creation story, it talks a lot about nature and time and how humans, animals, and nature are all interconnected with each other and they all depend on one another. And there's also the theme of time, which is how the world is created over time and how it will be successful in the future and how it will help people. And then with Christopher Columbus, his letter, it explores themes of wealth and conquest. So overall, from this era, I took away basically themes of time, nature, and exploration. Moving on to the second period, which is exploration and colonial writing. So the main takeaways that I got from this specific era was definitely time. So looking at Common Sense by Thomas Paine, he wrote a political essay about the buildup to the Revolutionary War and explored the themes of time and how the past does not matter and instead people should be looking into the future to build better ideas and come back stronger after the war. But then in Rip Van Winkle by Washington Irving, he also explores themes of time, but instead of saying that the past doesn't matter and that the future is what matters, he says that the past is important because you can hold on to memories you once had, and how when a big event happens in real life, people might feel disconnected from their old life and it takes getting used to rebuilding that new life again. And this is all symbolic to the Revolutionary War. So this specific era, I took away different themes of time and how each story has a different say, but it all comes back to the main theme of time and the war and social reconstruction after big events. Moving on to the third period, which is the Revolutionary and Early National Literature. So the main takeaways that I got from this era was like dark romanticism and both of the main characters being prisoners in their own minds at the end of the story. So the Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe, for example, it explores themes of guilt and conscience and madness and mental instability, and also explores the Gothic aspect of early American literature. And key ideas from honestly this whole period is how fear and guilt can distort reality, and obsession can lead to dangerous acts, and also how people are capable of being both good and evil, whether you want to believe it or not. So I really liked this era because it was really interesting to read about how humans can slowly descend into some type of madness. And yeah, so my big takeaway on these two are that they are both dark romanticism and both of the main characters become prisoners in their own mind. Moving on to the last period, period 4, this is pre-Civil War literature and reform writing. So my big key ideas and takeaways from this era was basically writing for something to change. So the narrative of The Life by Frederick Douglass, it's a personal narrative that explores themes of education and how that can be linked to freedom, and the horrors about slavery and real things that happened to him. And then with Elizabeth Cady Stanton, it's an argument, or basically a paper written to shed light on the unfairness that women have had and explores themes of equality, women's rights, and justice. So basically, this whole era was people writing to have something change in society because almost everybody was getting treated poorly except for white men, basically. So then comparing the last two periods, so the early national literature and romanticism era, in my opinion, focused on more emotions and imagination and individual experiences, while the pre-Civil War era focused on like real social problems that many people faced and calls for change. So in Edgar Allan Poe's Telltale Heart, he focuses on the main character and his experiences. But with Elizabeth Cady Stanton, she focuses on a plethora of women who are being treated poorly and unfairly, and it's not really about her personal experience, it's about the collective women as a group who are being treated poorly. And then another difference is how early national literature era focused more on human nature, guilt, and the supernatural, while the pre-Civil War era focused more on injustice, human rights, and equality for everybody. My most memorable text was The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe, because he told the story in a very interesting way, and I liked how he used imagery to really capture the atmosphere and the way the main character was feeling. And as you're reading it, it kind of feels like you're in the story as well, and you can picture everything in your head. And then one idea that changed my thinking was it made me realize how important writing was during this specific time period, and I really admire Frederick Douglass and Elizabeth Cady Stanton for writing these pieces and trying to stand up for what is right and fight for the people who experienced this. And I didn't really realize how hard it was to use your voice back in those days, and how writing was one of the main things that people had to advocate for what is right. So yes, thank you for watching. That was my final project.